Trust, burn Canto next. It will happen. You know what? I eventually was kinda right. We are once again at the end of a Canto. Canto 9. Kumo no Ito, Aka no Ito. We are 2 for 2 with cantos that I'm probably mispronouncing. And with Canto 9 ending later than it should, and Canto 10 on the horizon, it's time to look back on the ideas we got this season and see how good they are. Since my last rewind, a few things changed with how Project Moon makes IDs. For one, every Limbus ID is now a lot more focused on the ID itself rather than on the keyword it possesses. And two, every single ID has at least 2 keywords. So, because of that, I had to switch the format of this video. Instead of talking about the keywords, I will take every scener and talk about the IDs they got this canto. Most of the time I won't mention stuff about their keywords, but I will put the ID's main keywords at the beginning of the segment. Like this. Some other things that I will not mention are the amount of coins, most of the time, and sheen, since PM was kind of in their sheen era with this canto. So here's all the new IDs that have sheen. Also, the order in which I talk about the sceners is arbitrary. It's also important to see that this video is a lot longer than the previous one. It just means that I have to say more about this canto's IDs, for better or for worse. But, without further ado, Virgil Sinclair, Pinky Apprentice Sinclair, the man who cheated and unsheated his sword 1,000 times. When he eats, when he trains, when he sleeps, he's cheating and unsheating his sword. Some say he's still doing it to this day. It's simple and I kinda love it. His whole kit is centered around getting 25 poise. His passive and guard helping him a lot with it. After that, he starts once again sheathing and unsheathing his sword to gain Moonlit Azure Blade instead of poise, which grants him both more damage and a shield, above greatly empowering his skill 2 and skill 3. And as much as I hate to say it, once he reaches his max stacks, he runs Bamboo-Hatted Kim into the ground. Man, my goat got put to shame by a fucking Gunnar fanboy, it's so over. Lamp Gregor. Sad, depressed, and miserable ID based on Hohenheim after he lost his bestie. So of course it had to be a Gregor ID, duh. As for the ID itself, he really is a jack of all trades, master of none. He has damage but not too much, he's relatively tanky, and he even slightly buffs his allies. The centering factor of this ID is probably the second most iconic part of the abnormality it's extracted from, Lamp, which he can get up to 8. The more lamp he has, the more bind he gets, but that's okay since he can redirect attacks without being faster. This reminds me of Ruina. It's also really easy to get lamp. You could wait and get it from his passives, but we all know your brain-rotted brain can't wait for that, so just sacrifice a percentage of your max HP to instantly get it. And once you have 8, you go back to 1 and inflict Dazzle. A pretty good debuff. I swear dude, this guy has to be the most accurate Ego Gear ID in the game. Well, now we'll just have to wait for the 2 other birds so we can create the Apocalypse Bird team that will merge 3 sceners into 1. Violently. AEDD Gregor. I think I'm actually going to cry. Charge got another ID that brings the team together. Now they have a total of 3. And it is a pretty fun ID that can debuff enemies with his skill 2 and skill 3 and spread charge with his passive. Of course, since he's based on Shock Centipede, one of my least favorite abnormalities to fight, he had to be relatively tanky and have an anti-death passive. But the most interesting thing about him is his other passive. As I said, you can deploy him later and have him spread charge to everyone, or you could deploy him first and have him keep all the charge, quickly getting his empowered skill 3 and pretty much playing him as a damage dealer. Look at him. His greed for charge sickens me. Dawn Office Rep Gregor. Even if I am alone, night will come, and every night is followed by dawn, a mere star that will fade. Cannot hope to beat. Oh shit. Wrong script. That's for a future Canto. Ignore everything I said after dawn. Okay, here we have our first Walpurgis team leader ID. So, to give an introduction to the new Dawn Office IDs, even though we'll talk about Faust much later. These two are a lot like the Blood Fiends. They have a specific status that they can use to empower their skill 3, as well as Scorchfield, which is basically Blood Feast but for burn, tracking how much burn damage was dealt during the encounter. And now, let's talk about Gregor. His status is Light of Daybreak, which grants him more burn application as well as self-burn. But something that separates him from the Blood Fiends is that he doesn't have to wait for his skill 3. He can use his guard, and if he has 30 Light of Daybreak, he'll use his empowered skill 3, Crack of Dawn, which, honestly, this skill 3 probably has one of the best animations in the game. It's just so cool and fitting for this faction, even if the animation itself is quite simple. And if you want to focus on the team leader aspect of him, he greatly buffs all allies and further buffs the Dawn Office IDs. But what about Scorchfield? How does he use that? Well, he doesn't. We'll talk about Scorchfield later, like last segment of the video later. Before we move on to the next sinner, I have to ask this. Why is Gregor the sinner that gets the most okay IDs? Like, none of his IDs are bad, but none of them are insane either. Not even his burn IDs, which are his best ones. Oh, yeah. Please never reach your potential, man. Hornet Meursault. Ah yes, apparently the last Walpurgis where we got IDs with guns wasn't enough. They had to surpass it and give this guy 2 guns. This is what happens when French people immigrate to America. Truly sickening. He's pretty simple and that makes him effective in what he does. He does have one limitation though. He is tailor-made for encounters with multiple enemies, since he gets loyalty whenever he kills an enemy with spores. He applies spores on hit, by the way. And to be honest, I kinda like it, since it doesn't really intrude over Prince Meru or Tam Meru's place in the team. It's also kinda funny how the last 2 Meursault burn IDs both have some sort of limitation. I just think that's kinda neat. Also, what the fuck is wrong with Burn Man? This is the second Burn Male ID that we got that shoots himself when he fails.
함께해서 영광이었습니다, 관리자님.
Ring Favoist Student Meursault. Nah, my boy is a furry. Good for him. Good for him. Honestly, I don't really have a lot to say about him. Despite his very wordy kit, he's a very simple and straightforward ID. His whole kit is based around inflicting mold color rouge or red if you're a normal person, something that he does on hit. and as the game goes on, he starts getting buffs from this, like putting on his fursuit. Now, I could go on and compare his new IDs to his older ones, but I'd rather show you this. Meet Side Grade Man. They call him 007. 0 completely replaced IDs, ignore the older IDs, they don't matter. 0 good syncing focused IDs, 7 teams to feed Prince of La Mancha Landin. Replace older IDs so hard that PM needs to buff old Walpurgis IDs? Give more options for teams he already has an ID for? Give me liberty, give me fire, give me 3 options for 1 keyword or I retire. Option and different team, but never replacement. Middle Apprentice Ishmael. I love Envy Resonance Slop. My favorite drinks are the Grimace Shake and Grape Fanta. I love matching colors on the screen. Jokes aside, I quite like this ID. I could best describe her as a reverse middle Sinclair. Instead of applying a status when hit, she gains it and uses it to empower her skill 3, consuming it to get middle augmentation tattoos, which give her one final power for every 5 stacks and a bit more damage per stack. They are quite hard to get though, so good luck with getting up to 10, but even getting just 1 is already pretty good, since her skill 1 and skill 2 get empowered. Her skill 2 especially, it pretty much becomes a Grippy Faust skill 2, but you know, on an ID that's not ass. Besides this, she has the same middle quirks. More offensive level based on resonance, counter becoming skill 3 when you get 6 envy res, yada yada yada. LCD Osir Team Ishmael. The newest addition to the LCD and newest addition to the Blade Lineage team. I don't even have something funny to say about her. This is straight up one of my favorite IDs of the Canto. Her whole kit is centered around her unique status, Mook Workshop Blade, which she gets by doing literally anything. Getting the most from, you probably guessed it, getting 3 Pride Resonance. She's kinda like if Manager Dawn and Kim Meursault had an adventure, with her being the byproduct of that. She stacks her status up, uses it for a special and really powerful skill, then rinse and repeat. And the Kim part comes from her guard. You see, Mook Workshop Blade makes her guard weaker, to the point that when she has around 10 of it, she will be almost guaranteed to lose the clash. But why would you want that? Well... That's right. As if she wasn't good enough, when she loses a clashable guard, she uses a mini to claim their bones, which she can use twice per turn, on guard and on assist defense. Uja Outis. Hopefully I'm saying Uja right. I really don't want to get smited down by Horus. She's all about protecting herself while debuffing the enemies, which she does with every skill, especially with her skill 3. And if that wasn't enough, she has Uja Vanguard, a status that she gets really easily and makes enemies have a 50% less chance to roll heads in the first clash with her, 50% less for tails for negative coins respectively. And if that wasn't enough, she's technically sinking count positive since her skill 3 inflicts blue sand, which in turn inflicts 1 sinking count on clash lose, thus making her skill 3 inflict 11 sinking count. Jesus Christ. We have gone from inflicting 7 after a bit of setup to technically inflicting 11. I don't know if PM is cooked or cooking. Probably both. Middle Great Sister Outis. Okay, I'll just cut to the chase, since you already know she pretty much has the same gimmicks as Middle Ishmael. The thing that's different and the centering factor of this ID is Lavieten, or to be exact, Sealed Sword. And to be honest, I think her kit explains pretty badly how to unlock it, so here it is. She gets Rising Fever depending on the unlock stage of Lavieten. I'm definitely saying that name wrong, holy shit. 1 for the first seal, and 2 for the next 2 seals. Once you get it to 0, she uses Time to Unpack and removes the seal off of her sword. And you lower Rising Fever by, you guessed it, using a skill 3 or getting 6 Envy Absolute Resonance. This would make her absolutely broken, if not for the fact that she can only lose 1 Rising Fever per turn, meaning that you need at least 5 turns to unlock her weapon. Is it worth it though? Fuck yes. It's basically over once she unlocks it. Her kit gets greatly empowered, going from really good damage to actually insane. The only trade-off is that once unsealed, Lavieten begins inflicting burn on everyone on the field. Well, this actually helps her with something. Hey kiddo, stand here if you will. Oh, sure mama. What are we doing? Is this a new move? Mama? Oh fuck! That's right. If an ally that's under 20% HP, 30% respectively for middle Ishi, loses a clash, she cancels the enemy's attack and uses Good Girl. Your sacrifice for the family won't be forgotten, killing them and dealing some pretty alright damage. Now, it might sound good, but trust me, it's only alright. Honestly, it's more of a they were going to die anyways, so might as well kill them kind of move. You should never try to force it, since this skill's damage is actually lower than her normal skill 3. Only use it when an ally gets to that point naturally. Besides this, she has a few more small buffs that she gets when killing Ishi and when under 50% HP. But yeah, this woman is cooked. A whole ass different skill that kills an ally only to deal less damage than a normal skill 3. The middle's reputation will never recover from this. Index Faust. The basis for the other index IDs will cover, so I'll explain how they work here. Each turn, they get a prescript. If it's fulfilled, they get Grace of the Prescript, advancing to a different prescript once they reach 3 and 6. The one they get at 9 is literally just kill the enemies. Lol. Hermes. Okay, so the wording of the first one is pretty janky. Use a skill marked with Mark of the Prescripts, or hit a target with a marked skill. The only marked skills are the ones with Mark of the Prescript. Never change PM. Okay, TLDR. First, use a skill with Mark of the Prescript. Second, actually hit with it. Third, use a marked skill 3 or any ego. And if they hit a target that has the Prescript's target, they get 3 Grace of the Prescripts instead of 1, making them absolute monsters in boss fights or focused encounters. But what about Faust? She is fine, nothing really special, as standard as it gets. The only difference between her and the other two we'll talk about is that she gets the prescripts on paper instead of a cool little device. I would say it's a bit of a shame that the index has lost its singleton factor from Ruina, but it's pretty much impossible to translate that into Limbus, so I'll take picking the skill with the flower on it, sure. Ring Apprentice Faust. Lobotomized Faust. Stupid Faust's best friend. POV. You lost a clash against Ring Faust after she got 3 Corpus Ingredient Potency. Before anything, Two of the new ring IDs introduce a new unique charge type, Corpus Ingredient, which acts mostly like normal charge. The big difference being that they get up to 10 of it based on the amount of ring IDs you field, and that once they get 2 potency, they get their respective artworks, which give buffs based on the amount of potency. Now with that out of the way, this unit is insane. She's a bleed count monster, and besides that, she deals really good damage as well. It kinda sucks that she doesn't keep the armor on for long because of her passive, but the trade-off is more than worth it. Dude, you gotta be kidding me, she applies bleed count even with her guard. No! No! Leave me alone! Ah! Nah, she's not even half as bad, broken, as the unit that ruined Canto 8, but it is funny that she got another assist defense ID. Dawn Office Fixer Faust. So, in this mirror world, is Sinclair into Faust? I mean, kind of a weird pairing, but... Oh, I totally get it now. Okay, in the Gregor segment of the video, I left something out about them. No, not you, get back. I said we'll talk about you later. What I left out is that the members of this office love to use follow-up attacks. If any of them uses their skill 3, empowered or not, you bet a skill 1 follow-up attack will come. Except from Sinclair, since he's a little baby that probably wants to call this Faust mommy. Me too. As for Dawn Office Faust, this idea is really good. She has pretty much the same playstyle as Dawn Gregor, the difference being that once she gets 30 Fire Butterfly Coffin, her status, if she uses her guard, she doesn't use her empowered skill 3, but a completely different skill that consumes all of it, deals really good damage, and gives her 3 Battle Instinct, her unique status that makes her a lot stronger. You know what's funny though? Her empowered guard uses all of Fire Butterfly Coffin on her. Her empowered skill 3 on the other hand doesn't, which means that you could use an empowered skill 3 into an empowered guard the next turn for maximum damage. They did put one limitation on her, because we all know what happens when you don't put limitations on Faust IDs. If she uses her empowered skill 3, she gets Overheated Coffin, making it impossible to use her empowered guard in the same turn, and thank God for that. It also applies a really scary 3 burn to you. Gulp! Side note, really good on the teaming Project Moon, giving them both self-burn to show that they will eventually die and leave Philip alone no matter what. Index Apprentice Dawn. I'm gonna get crucified for this. I really don't like this idea. I called other ideas Jacks of all trades, Masters of none, but this one has everything. Good damage, sheen, and an ego once she gets 3 Grace of the Prescript. And somehow, she manages to make it so boring. I find her kit very uninteresting, and I think she's part of a problem that showed itself in this Canto. Question: what does Ring Faust and Index Dawn have in common? That's right, their non-empowered forms are basically non-existent, and where Ring Faust's kit is noticeably different, going from a tank to a damage dealer, Index Dawn remains a damage dealer both in her non-empowered and empowered forms. You could also argue that Wild Hunt Heathcliff and Dawn Sinclair also stay the same, but look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes and tell me that they aren't wildly different when they are in their empowered forms. Look me in the eyes and lie to me. I just can't bring myself to like this idea, and I really hope Project Moon stops creating fairly interesting IDs with different forms when one of the forms is virtually non-existent. Also, not to kick her while she's down, but I really hate her design. Besides the big hands that represent the fact that she's executing the will of the city, the whole angel and devil design is really corny and lazy, and her best design element isn't even from her. Let's just move on. Black Silence is I mean 9 coin man. I mean Index Nurse Father Yi-sang. Okay, yeah, this guy is just a slightly weaker version of Roland. To be fair, he was kinda born to be an Argalia cosplayer, but sadly the press scripts demanded he LARPs as Roland. I mean, this isn't Roland behavior, my guy. Yeah, he's insane. He has so much damage. As I mentioned with the Index, the Roland fantasy can't really be realized in Limbus like it was in Ruina, so instead they opted for a more classic approach. In order for him to use his Furioso replica and aura farm, he has to reach unlock level 3 and 9 Procuration Hermes. Not complicated at all, literally just do the same things you need to complete the press scripts and you'll reach 9 Procuration Hermes in no time. As for the weapon switching, the way they did it is to have him use a different weapon on every coin. Every weapon granting a different buff, from getting 2 extra poise to dealing 30% more damage and guaranteeing a crit. And you know what's funny? After his first Furioso, he loses his mask, which gives him some pretty meh buffs and debuffs, but this makes his next Furioso even stronger. Genuinely, what are they gonna do when we are gonna get an actual Black Silence ID? Bullshit OP. Dimension Shredder Yi-sang. Wow, I didn't think it possible to make such an underwhelming ID, but here we are. He's very much the same as the other modern charge IDs. He's a bit different though, since he inflicts Dimensional Rift, a pretty forgotten effect. But that's not what sets him apart. What sets him apart is Dimensional Castaway, his unique effect that can be gained from his skill 3 and guard. And whenever he has this skill, if an ally deals damage, he'll follow up with an unopposed skill 1 and consume the effect. And by consuming it, he gets a buff, Quadricolor Dimensions. One of the most underwhelming buffs that I have ever seen. Really, a bit of extra defense and offense level, and a bit of extra damage, that's it? To be fair, it's actually piece easy to hold this at 3 or 4 stacks after the first empowered skill 3, since PM made him get 2-dimensional castaway from his guard after he reaches 3 charge potency, and that's why it's so underwhelming. Instead of making a buff actually impactful, they had to keep it small because he can have insane uptime on it, pretty much making it base kit, which is horrid design. Ring Nurse Father Honglu. POV. You lost a clash against Ring Honglu. I love reusing jokes. He is very similar to Faust, the difference being that he's the centering unit of the ring IDs. And, you know, he hits like a truck. You see, he gets a special status at the start of the fight that is lowered by 1 when other ring IDs use their skills, and when it reaches 0, he gets an empowered skill 3 that's... yeah. And on top of that, after the skill, he says, student, and empowers all ring IDs, which is pretty funny since the ring canonically kicked this guy out for being trash, yet they still get inspired by his work. And besides this, he also empowers Ring Faust before she uses her skill 3. literally the best father in the House of Spiders. Well, as long as we ignore the fact that this mirror world version of him used Ryoshu's body as material. Chu Honglu. Yeah, I just can't say this ID's entire name. What is my purpose? You make the enemy slower. Oh my god. Yeah, that's kinda it. Besides his gimmick that makes enemies slower through bind and trust, he is not really much else. I mean, he is a Blois ID with decent bleed count and good rolls, so by default he's very good. This is probably the simplest ID we got this Canto, even simpler than Pinky Sinclair. And honestly, it's kinda refreshing to only read a few lines for his passives instead of an essay. Middle Big Brother Heathcliff. I mean, it's a cool ID, but not that cool. Wait, where is that music coming from? Oh fuck! This is one of the coolest IDs of the Canto, and our first middle team leader. And holy shit, this Canto was good at realizing each finger's, most of them, gimmick. He not only makes the middle IDs take less damage when they use their counter, but he also prevents stagger if you get to 4 or 6 envy res, which, let's be honest, come on, it's the middle team. Besides this, he pretty much has the same gimmick as middle Sinclair, and Kurokumo Heathcliff's passive built in, but we both know that's not the best part about him. The best part about him is what happens when you chain enough envy to get to 15 vengeance tattoo. That's right, this is the first ever ID to change battle music. His empowered skill 3 is pretty good as well, I guess. But the music change is so hype. And the fact that it's muffled before the turn starts. Oh my god, I love this ID. He doesn't overwrite melee songs though. That will probably, and hopefully, be kept for a certain red fixer. Thumb Apprentice Heathcliff. The amount of waiting that people had to do to get the thumb IDs, I'm not joking. If we were to go one more week without them, people would have started to spiral like the Hollow Knight community before they got Silksong. So, how good is Betrayal Heathcliff then? I really like this ID. It's a type of ID we haven't seen in a while. A duelist with a kit that looks way more complicated than it actually is. On hit and clash win, he applies the duel escalates. Once the enemy has 5 stacks, he can use his empowered skill 3. Why the fuck are you staying so still? Move for fuck's sake! A skill from which he gets Maturing Textbook, 1 on hit and 2 on kill. A status that has a maximum of 3 and greatly empowers his kit. I need to mention that you can also get it by killing an enemy that has the dual escalates on them, making him really good in boss fights with multiple enemies, but still pretty alright in normal bosses, if you manage to get a bit lucky. On top of all of that, he uses his skill 1 as a follow-up when Thumb Nurse Father Rodion attacks, and he defends her when she doesn't have the status that makes her dodge. Do you even want to kill her or not, dumbass? We saw what happened to your Mirror World counterpart when he took too long. Ring Fauvis Docent Rodia. Do you like tall woman? Do you want to apply 6 different negative effects? Are you a furry? If the answer to 2 of those 3 questions is yes, then man, I have the ID for you. It's really weird that she's the second Ring team leader, but I don't really mind it. if the other faction we got focuses on the bleed aspect of the ring IDs, then she focuses on the negative effects aspect of it. Not like she doesn't inflict a good amount of bleed count, but still. And just like with Faust and Hong Lu, and how you want to get their artworks quickly, you really want to make her get La Fauvisme as soon as possible, since it's a pretty significant buff, which you can get by using her Empowered Guard or applying negative effects. Speaking of negative effects, the coolest thing about her is that she has both an Empowered Guard and an Empowered Skill tree. Wait, what's interesting about that? Well, unlike other IDs that have empowered skills, her aren't tied to another form or a stackable status. She gets her empowered skills when the enemy has 3 negative effects on for the guard and 6 for the skill tree, which is really cool. This being something that we saw more of in this Canto, and I truly hope we get more empowered skills that are based on other factors besides a stackable status. Thumb Nurse Father Rodion, one of the best. Fucking dumbass, I told you to stop staying still! God, he freaks me out. One of the best IDs of the Canto. She is, no joke, so strong that she's a great contender for the strongest ID of the Canto, and it's all because of the status she inherited from the real Valencina, Eye of Precognition. She starts with 30 and can lose up to 10 per turn by clashing, using skills, and most importantly, dodging, which she does against unopposed clashes, unbreakable coins, and lost clashes. And even if it's a lot weaker than Valencina's, it still has a lot of use. And if used correctly, you can get great value from it. But the best thing about her is what happens when she loses it. For one, she converts them into 0 Eye of Precognition overhit and gets Disposal. One of the strongest and easiest to get empowered skill trees in the game, that can also be regained if you killed your target. Genuinely, this skill tree deals so much damage for a skill that needs only 3 turns to get, it's mental. Now, I made her sound kinda simple, but she still has a lot more. Ammo that gives her poise, a separate skill 2 when she has no ammo left, and lastly, a separate skill 1 for when she successfully dodges all attacks with her evade. And her only downside is that she's not counted as a poise ID. But seeing how I got her to a whopping 116 clash power in the mirror dungeon, and how she gets poise from her ammo, yeah, she doesn't need it. Faint Aroma and Solitude Ryoshu. Jesus Christ, please take that off my screen. Probably the only ID that makes me want to live in T-Corp. I know it's following the drip from LobCorp to a T, but Jesus Christ. She makes me want to not have eyes. Is she good though? Oh yeah, she's insanely good. She's almost sinking count neutral, and I say almost despite her skills being sinking count neutral, since that's not her bread and butter. That's right, this unit's main gimmick is her follow-up attacks. Her skill 1 follow-up and her skill 3 follow-up. Both of which are really easy to trigger. So easy that you can, in fact, have her do 4 skills in 1 turn if you stagger an enemy to make her use an unopposed skill 1, she runs out of bullets to use her skill 1 follow-up, and she gets petals to max stacks to use her skill 3 follow-up. And on top of that, she also has a panic type changing effect on her skill 1 follow-up attack that once again applies sinking count. But honestly, what I love about this ID isn't how good and frankly fun she is to use, is that her skill 1 is a really important part of her kit, instead of being an afterthought. I'd honestly say this is one of the best designed IDs in the game, besides her appearance. But now, I think it's time to talk about the reason we are all here. Blade of the House of Spiders Ryoshu. You know, when I said I hope that when we get the Ryoshu Bad End ID, she's not gonna be another ID like him and Manager Dawn. I want an ID that can relatively stand on its own. I didn't mean it like this. I know she's not the first ID to kill her own allies, but she's the first ID to gain specific buffs depending on the ally she killed. No joke, this is such specific hatred that you gotta admire it. If you use her guard, she'll kill the earliest deployed House of Spiders ally and gain a buff from it. Unless it's Sinclair. This mama loves her baby. Not enough to not slime him, but enough to keep him for last. These buffs make her stronger and stronger, to the point where if you have all House of Spiders allies dead, she becomes an actual playable mini-boss, even changing the music. Now, I won't list all the buffs, but the most important thing to know is that you should kill the Nurse Father IDs first, as they, besides their respective buffs, give her String Severance, which give her Empowered Skill 3, 1 more coin per stack, giving her a 6 coin skill, making her tankier, and most important, allowing her to kill 2 allies per turn. As for how you get her Empowered Skill 3, her skills apply Blade Trail After Image, making the enemies take more slash damage. And as she applies it, she gets equal, up to 25 per turn, D with Star Blade. And when she has 50, she uses, god, this ID is so fucking complicated, yet another different Empowered Skill 3 that gives her Empowered Skill 3 next turn. And since when Kim Ji-hoon was asked, "Manager, what should we give her?" he answered, "Yes, there's even more." Besides the specific buffs that they give, all of her dead allies give her Entanglement, a status whose whole purpose is to increase her damage. And on top of that, and I promise this is the last thing, whenever she attacks an enemy with a glitchy shadow around it, she first uses a follow before attack to deal some extra damage. Holy shit, this ID is absolutely insane. And the fact that what I gave here can be low-key considered the TLDR is nuts. But it was realized so well. Using her really feels like you have 2 boss fights duking it with one another. And now, I am genuinely curious what they will do with Meursault's Bad End ID. What do you guys say? First controllable distortion? And now, let's move on to the extras. Instead of keywords, I am going to show where these guys get their buffs from. Ardor Blossom Star Faust. This is the simplest of them all. It just lets her use her fully empowered skill 3 once without dying afterwards. Something much needed when we saw just how hard hitting some empowered skill 3s are now. Solemn Lament Yisang. This is by far the most useless buff in the game, solely made to make him fit into the Tremor Sinking team. It's an extremely boring buff, and this guy did not fall off enough to warrant being buffed. Also, there was definitely no other Yisang ID that deserved the buff. Yep, Can't think of any of them. Blade Lineage Mentor Meursault. Actual peak buff. Besides making him a Blois ID, his new ego, Shadow Vested Blade Singer, once used, really helps him keep up in damage with the newer IDs. Really, the only major changes are the fact that he rolls better and that his skill tree is pretty much guaranteed to lose now, which plays into his gimmick instead of erasing it. Maybe it's a bit too easy to use to claim their bones now, but it's fine. I'll trade the ID being easier to play for an actually good buff. And now, the ID that got the most buffs, Dawn Office Fixer Sinclair. And let me start with a question. What was his problem? Well, whatever you say, it's probably wrong. Unless you said he's abysmal 10 rolling skill 1 that has no conditionals. That and the fact that you can get to 0 or less SP when you exit from his unstable ego. So, how did PM buff him? Did they increase his rolls? Well, yes, and his damage, which they increased by making him activate Burn on Target with his skill 2, and by making him utilize up to 100 Scorchfield stacks to make his skill 3 do more damage. Okay then, how did they deal with his unstable ego? They removed his entire gimmick. Yep, if you have Gregor on the field, he's unable to go below 25 SP. You know, I see what they tried to do. His mentor is on the field, so he won't despair or anything like that. But this is still an unstable ego. Why remove his entire gimmick? The fuck is wrong with you guys? You could have just made him instantly go to 10 SP if any of them were on the field, while also keeping the extra SP healing they give. It would have made him easier to play, realized his fantasy really well, and kept his gimmick intact. And this, in my opinion, soils what is honestly a much needed and amazing buff. That being said, I have one huge positive about these buffs. The buffs he gets when Gregor and Faust die are perfect. I actually don't mind locking him at 45 SP when the two of them are dead. You are, after all, sacrificing two really good IDs for this. And I absolutely love those buffs. They truly make him feel like Philip after he lost his entire office in Ruina. A relentless burning blade. Too bad he's probably going to get cooked later when he eventually listens to a funny voice in the sky. The conclusion? I really hope Project Moon keeps buffing older IDs, but I also hope that if they do so, they at least try to keep their old gimmicks intact. And that was it for Canto 9. And man, what a Canto! Even though it has its fair share of problems, like the frankly insane power creep and charge kinda becoming a severely outdated keyword, I still think it has more positives than negatives. Mainly in how creative and ambitious they got with some of the new ideas. In the end, I want to thank you all for staying up until this point, and I can't wait for our resident Frenchman to get his Canto. But until then, what can I say? I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!